Shalom friends, just going to take you on a little tour of a house I've done a bunch of work on, just to kind of show you some of the things I do to earn a living. So I installed this door. The door was purchased, and that's a solid wood door, craftsman style. What was here originally, probably in this craftsman style home, was something like that. But then somebody ripped it out at some point, totally boarded up the side windows. In fact, on the inside here, they were totally walled over with drywall. So that whole tall window on either side was totally covered, as was the transom window at the top, totally covered up. So I had to open the wall up. On the outside, it just had shutters on the sides and the top, kind of covering up that opening since I didn't want to side over it. So I had to open that up again. It was a lot more work than if you've never done anything like that, then most people would realize. But I ordered the little window on the bottoms and the little windows up on the top. They were supposedly meant for exterior use, but I didn't like the way I didn't like their chances of holding up outside, so I completely disassembled the windows because they were just screwed together, not glued together. And then I totally primed them, used construction adhesive and outdoor, actually it was a marine adhesive is what I used to put them together. And they're on a porch, so I think they're fine. But I also had to convert the lower windows, were just meant to be fixed, to operable windows. And so I had to take care of all the hardware, and they lock and they've got weather stripping on them. So all those little details were things I had to take care of. And then, trim it out. Oh, and I built the transom. Not that that's like a super big deal, but I made that. And I'm really pleased with the way it came out. It's a really attractive door. There's some more of these craftsman style homes on this block, and it really looks good. So there it is from the outside. I also had on the door that was there, which was shorter, it was cut down. So it was a weird deal. So we had to change everything to get this taller door in, put a new doorbell in, so I had to run the wiring and put the transformer in. I had made these old, I had gotten something from the customer. They had these old cypress door screens that I had to cut and fit. Totally remade them, put pet screen on them, and they did an awesome patina. And they were on the door that was here, and they worked out so that I could cut them down, add a little piece to them, and use them on these side windows. So the operable windows, they have screens on them. So I did that. Small things like I installed the lights, but whatever, it's no big deal. And just recently I did some wiring in here, which you can't see because it's all outside, but to rewire the fans, there was old knob and tube wiring in here, and we removed that and wired it. It's out. There's conduit on the outside of the wall in some places. They didn't do a lot else in here. This was not my job. Somebody else was renovating this, but they saved some stuff for me. There was a cold air return there. I figured we're never gonna hide that, because I wasn't going to cut the floor back enough to tooth it in, because these are pretty long pine boards. So we just made a pattern in there, and they like it. I made this table out of, those are actually the old balusters from their stairs. Some of that plaster lath is from their house. I found those tiles under their house when I was working on the house. There's some other art furniture pieces of mine in here I'll show you. But before we go upstairs, and you see some of that, focus. This stair came down, the last 3 stairs turned. That was actually all boarded up at the top because it was split into a double, and there was a doorway going out to a stair down. Somebody else ripped the stair down, but I took the door out and fixed that, opened this up, retrimmed it, rebuilt the stair so that it came straight down instead of at an angle. The newel post was cool, but I couldn't reuse it. The balusters were all unequal sizes, because it wasn't put up right. And then, the new banister or handrail. So I redid the stairs, painted them, all the shoe molding in here. Had to do some really creative trim that you're not going to see down there. It's totally hidden, so nobody's going to really appreciate it, but I had to do some hand carving and mortising, and yeah, it was difficult to get that trim down there looking good. You wouldn't even notice what I did. I actually used, to make that joint down there look good, those didn't actually come together. That was quite a bit of work. And then these were two totally different pieces. They look similar, but they had a different profile. Anyway, again, not something that's a big deal. But what used to be here also was like a post all the way up to the beam and down to a bookshelf, and there was a bookshelf here, and there was one on either side, and that just really closed in the room. They looked neat, but they made the opening much smaller. So I took all that out, and somebody else did the drywall work on that, I think. I, retrimmed that nice stained glass window, which you're not going to be able to see in here probably. Anyway, what else did I make in here? Anything? Small things. Somebody else broke the toilet. I fixed it, or replaced it, installed a new one. I installed that sink because the one that was there was too big, stuck out in the doorway, so I changed that. And painted this door, frosted the glass. Again, not a big deal. Down here, this is an old piece that was like from a doctor's office. I made the funky top with salvaged wood for them. Oh man, let's see. I made that little sign there. I put that piece of iron up there. They live across the street from a cemetery, and it's not my thing, but cemeteries are a big thing in New Orleans. I made that shelf. That's out of some like really ancient barge wood. It's super beautiful. I'm not going to be able to show you very well, but really pretty piece of iron in there. And I painted this room. It was painted originally. I painted it, fixed it up, made it better because it wasn't really very good, but paint job. I made this light here. That was actually with some made with some old deck lights they had. Those are actually kind of like expensive now, those antique lights. And just as like a funky bookshelf light, they really liked it. They don't use it as a bookshelf, but they keep it here by the door. And then this was a piece that they had given me when they moved out of their last house. It was a funky old, maybe army trunk or something. They didn't really know what to do with it. They had it sort of standing up, and it had shelves in it. Well, I put the legs on it, and they're purposefully, not rusty and rusty on the other side, same thing. And I made this top out of some really neat old cypress. And then even just this little tray that slides out, this has a history. This is from a 100-year-old mahogany bed, and that slides in there and leaves room underneath. Hold on a second. They don't use the bottom, but they could have. And the chain is actually vintage, antique chain, and that's our old wire staples. I'm doing that with my left hand. Anyway, the lid fits on there really nicely. Yeah, it was even better, but there was some leaking in here. The plumber was fired on this job by the general contractor who was doing the major renovations in here. And then he had his guys do some of the plumbing. And then some of that busted loose up there, and there was a big hole and a whole bunch of water. I did a whole bunch of drywall and painted the ceiling before I painted the whole room. And then it leaked up there because the guys who put the toilet in didn't know how to put a toilet in. Didn't leak when I put it in. Let's see. I made that funky stained glass thing up there for them. Whoops. I don't think that's going to work if I flip it, is it? I don't know. I made that pantry built in. There was just a space there. And yeah, I made that out of antique cypress. The inside's, sanded plywood, obviously, but I did little trim accents on it. So that's all salvaged material. This is plaster lath, that's pine, these are cypress, and this is funky old cypress. That's the original patina, the paint there. Didn't have to faux paint that. And then this is stackable washer and dryer, little laundry area and storage on top. I trimmed that out. It was totally out of square. Like, that looks so good if you knew what I had to work with. And then I designed and built those funky doors up there. And there's other little things I did in here. I did a bunch of stuff in this house, a bunch of work underneath, which I'm not gonna show you. But we'll go upstairs where I redid the stairs. There was no railings because this was just floored over. So I had to cut the floor out and make a perimeter. We did it a little different color just to kind of, I don't know, make it a little bit interesting. I'll show you. Built the columns and the caps. We wanted to do like a wire railing like you would see on a ship, but that was really expensive, so we just did it with galvanized pipe and pipe flanges, and it was pretty neat. I came up with the idea for these like newel post caps, so to speak. And then I guess I did spin it. I don't know how this video is going to turn out. Just to show you, oh, here's something I did too. I made this clock. That's old license plate numbers riveted on to an antique piece of corrugated steel and trimmed out with some wood that was actually from their houses that I've worked on. So that was cool. It used to be that you'd walk up here. When I first did this railing, there was another one of these posts here, and then it went across, and that was a little landing, and you'd have to come up here, turn to the left, and then go in a door. This was a wall. There was this bump out here, but it was a foot smaller. We bumped it out a little further. I put these doors in. This was one antique cypress door, which I cut in half and put a neat Baldwin lock on it. Wasn't really room to have a full swinging door in there. And I had to piece in where there was drywall missing. All this drywall on this wall in here is new. So like that's all new on this side, and this is all new. This was the original bedroom door, and it used to be almost there. But you'd walk out of that door and be looking down the stairs and have to turn and go out. So we turned this into a closet, again with the original door. So, you know, all the wiring, framing, drywall, it's all my work. And on the other side of this, I'm not going to show you, but I couldn't find the exact profile of this picture rail. It's very similar, but I had to play with it with the chisels to get it to come together and look good. But it does. You can't really tell unless you really get up and stare at it. And so this was a closet in here, and we bumped it out a foot and turned it into a bathroom. So I just had a plumber come and do the rough in for the water lines and do the drain work, but I installed the fixtures and did everything else. Cut in, put that little window up there to let some light in. Designed and built this funky light. This actually was the box that was in the closet that the light was attached to, so we reused that. And then, made that funky thing. A vintage wire supply or something. They've got some really neat stuff. And, installed the sink and the toilet. Made the baseboard out of plaster lath. Tile work is mine. I wouldn't normally do that, but I had no choice. There was no other place to put the switches. Pocket door, which we got to match almost to the T, the original door. That door works really great. Now the pocket door frame, I took it apart and I rebuilt it. It's cheaper for me to buy them assembled, but I don't like the way they put them together, and I like shore them up. But anyway, they wanted a metal shower, so this is commercial grade roofing. no rust on it. It's just been like 3 or 4 years since I did this. That's a big hunk of stainless steel. This is an epoxy mortar that goes down to put this tile in, and that's in a plastic pan. I don't know what the material is, but it does not leak. It's a really awesome shower pan. I love them. They're expensive and they're kind of a pain because you have to use epoxy to put the tile in, but great results. No way it leaks. I can't show you what I did inside of here, but that J channel, it has holes in it to let the water drain out. There's no rust on the tile. Doesn't stay wet long enough. Use, roofing screws with washers, but behind there, the whole wall is coated with 2 more coats of membrane than is even recommended. I just went kind of crazy on it. When I drilled holes, I pumped the holes full of silicone before I put the screws in. And there's double flashing on the bottom over the tub ledge. That's kind of hard to explain, but there's just impossible for it to leak. It's on a second floor. It's not going to happen. I coated the floor in here with a membrane before I put the tile down, so if there's ever an overflow, it's not going to leak downstairs. This was their idea, no mixing valve, not mine, but I used stainless steel angle iron and stainless steel flat bar to make these cutouts for because I didn't want, these couldn't fit flat against the corrugated, so I made these basically little like stainless steel boxes to mount everything to. So I really like this shower. It's funky, it's different. So I did that. And what else up here? Shut this off. Nothing much else I did up here. This is where those 2 pieces of trim don't match. That one is the same as that one, but in that corner they don't match. And then in this corner they don't match. So I had a bunch of work to do to get those. And you can see this was flooring, and there was a door here, and I'd redid all that. I actually built this funky bookcase. It looks like a fireplace mantle, which I think is neat. I'm saying a lot. And they bought that from me when I was selling stuff at an art market. That's my mirror. I made that. I made the sign that says peace up there, that one, with the license plate letters. Trimmed out around the original fireplace. Set this up there to cover the hole for the fireplace. This is actually fireplace, like a iron piece. And some railing down there to, mimic a place where the ashes would be. It's made out of barge wood, antique cypress trim. Like, it's really all antique wood. And the only other major thing I did here inside, there's a bunch of little things, but I didn't do this bathroom. Frankly, my tile would have been better. I did tile for an old friend. He had a similar problem where we would have ended up with a little piece and then, a whole piece. But what I did was I knew the tub was level and the ceiling was out of level, so I started off level the first 3 rows and then used my own custom 16th inch shims and then 3/32 shims to slowly bring the subway tile lines out of level. There was no window, so that helped. By the time I got to the ceiling, I had a whole piece that I cut just a tiny bit on one side and then a little caulkable gap on the other side because it was more than 1 inch out of level. The ceiling was. Anyway, and the grout work in here is not great. So I'm just telling you that, not to pick on anybody, but I've done subway tile and mine looks better than that. But I built this cabinet, and that's all out of antique cypress, except of course the plywood. The funky mismatch hinges are on purpose. You see there's a pastel pink tile, so I used pastels. There's pink and green and blue. These are actually old faucet handles, which I cut to turn into handles. These are panels from a 6-panel door. So, oops, it doesn't need to bang like that, but I built that cabinet. It's got 6 coats of spar urethane on it. I was purposeful to have these little hinge mortises and things showing up. And then what I just got done working on today was this. There's a hole in the wall back behind this. They like that funky, eclectic stuff. I made this and installed this faucet. They had a cheaper faucet. I got in there, changed the valves. It leaked. Still, we replaced the whole faucet. It leaked. They bought something from England, funky copper thing. that leaked, and it was hard for them to operate, so they just spent more money on a really nice in-wall fixture. And I just got done installing this today, and I had to make a new. I already had a thing like this up here, but I had to redo that because the holes weren't in the same place. So that's that. Nothing else in here except there is another piece or two of mine, but they're in places I'm not going to go walk around in their house. So yeah, we'll go downstairs. Oh, I gotta shut the light off. I did a couple other things in here. What else did I do? You can't see what else I did. I made an attic. There's a little porch roof here, and I made a attic access. It's pretty slick. It blends right in with the wall. So you can climb in there because they had squirrels in case they ever need to get in there. I'm gonna go outside. Just take a walk with me. 20 minutes. Show you a couple other things I did. Let's see, I turned this light on, and when I rewired this fan light here, you know, it was just where you had to pull the chain. So we rewired it so you had a switch for the light and a switch for the fan. And then I did this light too. That had knob and tube wiring, and there was no switch over here. So we did all this wiring. I say we, me, I did it. But was there anything else in here? Probably not. Shut this one off. All right, now, before I leave, show you what else I'm doing. I'm in the middle of building a small, basically an addition. It's like a 3 Seasons room addition. It's not gonna have any heat, but they could put a portable thing in there. We had a permitting problem because she didn't quite understand what was required being in a historical district, but we're sorting that out. So this looked prettier. Problem now is it's been sitting in the weather, but we had a little bit of work to do on the foundation. So anyway, this was there was a porch that ended there, and it was sitting on piers and foundations that were scary, especially considering it goes all the way up to the, like, that's a bedroom up there, and that was all, well, scary. So you can't see my whole beam, but we put in slightly overkill header there. It's tripled up, and then it's a 2x6 wall holding it up, and there's 3 new piers here, which are dug on foundations over 2 feet deep, pinned with rebar, and then pinned to the new deck. And then we extended it 12 feet or something. I think something like that. Maybe, I don't know how far that is, but we have to chop it back 2 feet. So I'm actually going to have to take the roof off, build a back wall in, because she can't be, there's too close to the fence by 2 feet, which is crazy, but that's what we have to do. So and even though there's windows on the house, because it's close to that house, the old stuff is grandfathered, the new stuff can be no windows, and it's got to be doubled up, fire rated. Thought we were good with just exterior fire rating, but we got to fire rate both sides. So anyway, that's part of it. We just had to do a little bit of work the engineer called for on the center beam. I just finished that, passed the foundation inspection, and now I'm going to close off the window openings, move that back wall back 2 feet, cut the roof back so the overhang's right. They're going to leave the little 2-foot deck on the back side, and they're going to use it for like planting or something, like doing potting work, like a little potting shed table area kind of thing. So it'll be cool. It's going to be a door here. No longer will there be a door there. We're totally reframing that, so it's going to be 2 windows there, 2 windows here. Yeah, anyway, so I got to reframe this, redo the roof, bringing it back 2 feet, close off the windows, fire rate that side, and then close it all up. And then we'll get our framing inspection, closed wall inspection, and we'll wrap it up. But you know, doing all that myself, and I guess that's about it. So I'll end there. I'll have to spin this around to shut it off. Oh, well, here's one other thing I made. I'll show this thing too. But I'm going to say shalom, friends, until next time, and then I'll end with this thing. This actually has looked better because they're refinishing the top. That is an old cypress column that I found. 11 feet long, in a dumpster, buried. And I dug it out. It's antique cypress. I mean, literally, could be 80 years old, the column. And I really wanted to save it. And then I was thinking, this is when I was doing work at a art market and selling furniture and art there. I cut that, reworked the trim, and then made this table and 2 bar stools entirely, literally entirely, from what was cut off from the column. So they have the stools, but they're inside. She's refinishing this, and then they leave it outside. So Josiah helped me. He did all these hurricane straps up here, and he was helping me do the framing and stuff in here. He's going to come back and help me when we go back on this one. But I'm working on a condo right now. All of his hurricane straps are going to waste. We're cutting those off. So anyway, that's it. Well, maybe not. I'll show you one other thing. I also ran wiring as far as the outside of this porch, so I'm gonna actually have to, no, it's gonna stay because we're not moving the deck. And then we buried it, and the conduit comes around here. We kept it nice and level. And then behind the shed, because didn't want to get into going under concrete. The conduit goes up. So we powered the shed here. I did some work rebuilding the shed. I didn't rebuild the whole thing, but some of it. And I ran the power in here. Actually, they've got a bunch of stuff stored in here right now because they're not here, and there's stuff that they normally have outside and some other stuff. I totally reorganized it, built shelves, ran the lighting, and then a GFCI with a night light on it for them. So when they come in here, they can see what they're doing. And then we ran this, electrical conduit over here so that they can run this funky fountain. It's actually pretty neat. It looks maybe kind of bad right now, but it's pretty cool. You would not, but that's a one solid piece of concrete. That thing is so heavy, 400 pounds maybe. I actually had to, it used to be on the other side of the yard, and I had to build a cart and come up with a rigging system to lay the thing down on my cart so I could roll it out of here, like roll it over here and then set it back up. So that was, and I did that all by myself. She said there was 5 guys who moved that originally, but I did it alone with leverage and brain power. All right, that's all. Till next time.